What's going on, everybody? Welcome to devlog number 6, Growing the Beard. And we got a picture of Commander William T. Riker, because, when we think of beards, he's that usually pops up in our head. Start 823801.4. It's not easy to launch a game. It's a small miracle every time a game manages to come out, and sometimes we stumble out of the gate. In our first 24 hours, we had some big issues with our game being flagged as malware by different antivirus makers, alongside a problem with our launcher. I did have a problem with the launcher. Thankfully, Nimble Giant fixed that last week, so my game is now sync, which is awesome. So thank you, Nimble Giant, for that. I did not have a problem with the antivirus being flagged as malware. And the reason being is, as a former Apple and former Microsoft employee, Mac does have an antivirus program, but it's made by Apple and it's running in the background. You don't see it. It's never it's not something you could actually see or interact with. But it's next to impossible to get a virus on a Mac. Even if you intentionally try to put one on there, it's everything's so locked down. It's basically impossible. On the Windows side, I can tell you as a former Microsoft employee, you should not really be using anything besides Windows Defender. And even before I worked at Microsoft, I could tell you I ran multiple ones, third-party antivirus scans and stuff like that, and they do more damage than good. And I believe that was the reason why Microsoft told us, or told the community, don't use anything besides Defender, because their risk damaging your OS. A lot of times these third-party ones will actually identify certain critical files that you need. Say, yeah, this malware, and you're like, all right, well, it's malware, let me delete it, and then Windows breaks down. Happens. Actually happened to me a long time ago, which is why I only use Windows Defender. Experts were summoned and fixes were pushed out as fast as we had a solution, as both of these problems were classified as critical. In layman's terms, anything that prevents people from playing the game and accessing content are classified as such. This does not mean we did not pay attention to the issues that were otherwise flagged by the community. On the contrary, we've been diligent in making note of these too, and in the upcoming weeks are looking to get some patches out that should help alleviate this. Now, if you're running into errors on Star Trek Infinite, I can tell you, if you use how do I say? So if you're running it on a Mac, I noticed when I started my game on the Mac, there were certain bugs that popped up, right? But when I started a new game on Windows, those bugs weren't there. And this is because, how do I say? When a developers actually design a game, they focus more on the OS that everybody uses, which I think is like 70 or 80%. I think it's 80+% use Windows for gaming, and I think it's about 10 to 15%. Actually, more like 15 to 20% for Mac, and I think it's 1 to 2% for Linux. So any bugs that come out are more likely to come out on those platforms that are in the teens or in the single digits. So I did notice that when I started a new game on the Windows side, it was clean. The bugs that I started on the Mac side weren't there. So I'm just continuing playing on the Windows side, even though I'm a huge Mac fan and I do not like Windows at all. I realize that developers make games and they prioritize it to work as perfectly as possible on Windows. Then they go into the other platforms and kind of clean out the bugs and stuff like that. So it is what it is. Nice image of Cardassia. To start off, our top priority is crashing issues. As previously mentioned, these are classified as critical in our eyes. We have reproduced several reports and are working on fixes as I write. I noticed they fixed a lot of these things. I did have some game-breaking crashes, multiple ones, but I don't have them anymore, so notice that. Next up is anything that causes mission blockage. This is both an inventory as well as a chain event that should trigger but don't. We have identified several of these and are working hard to unblock everyone. Again, my new game, in my old game I wasn't able to do integration. I hit start integration, nothing happened. Like there was no bar on the top that had progress. So I had to figure out workarounds. My new game, everything's working. After this, we are looking at some quality of life must-haves, UI scaling for 4K and above, along with all other UI blockers that have negatively impacted the user experience, or UX for brevity. Making sure that data does not die from old age. Yeah, I ran into that. I was like, and I mean, the data can die, like we saw in Star Trek Nemesis, but not from old age. Then again, you never know. I mean, if you add a couple of thousand years to data, I'm sure the circuits and computers do get old and eventually stop working. And other immersion breaking bugs like two human races in the Federation and the Enterprise D being left leaderless. We also identify several strange behaviors and bugs in the voiceover, so these have been tracked for fixing. Yesterday, you might have seen that we fixed some additional crashing bugs alongside getting Workshop up and running. Yes, the Workshop is up and running. There's a multitude of mods in there already. Some that I'm tempted to download, but they are in alpha state, so I'm waiting for them to be fully fleshed out. Because the last thing you want to do is add in a mod, and then you're halfway through the game and it crashes and you can't go any further. I personally would like to recommend Consortiums as well as Tiny Outlier. Tiny Outlier is one of my always used mods for Stellaris, so glad to see it come over. I'm going to check those out. I'll do a bigger dive into mods on a later dev log, but wanted to let you know that a big patch is currently being tested and verified by our QA team. I had a feeling one is being worked on. They released a launcher patch last week, but most of the week was silent, so I had a feeling that they were just making a big one. I will be back with patch notes as soon as they are vetted. I really like these. Additionally, next week we're going to dive into what we are doing long term. No, we're not talking about DLC. DLC. Nimble Giant, I would literally pay double the cost of the game for DLC, triple the cost of the game. I literally will just whatever. I want the Gamma and Delta quadrants, please. I want the Gamma and Delta quadrants. But we have some major quality of life fixes for you guys. It will require a lot of work on our part, but to get it to a state that is worth showing off. Ooh. Nice. Wrapping this up, we know a lot of you wanted more from this game than when you received that launch. We have heard this loud and clear. We are motivated to push ourselves to that goal and expectation. There are some negative reviews on Steam that show us how much potential people see in this game, and that lights a fire under us to continue forward. And so just going off that, when the game launched, I'll be honest, I don't know if you see my time that I have in the game. It's like almost 60 hours. I think there's only maybe one or two games that I can recall that I've gotten that far in 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks. We're only a week and a half into it. So it's amazing that I'm able to throw in so many hours, considering, like I got family, all other jobs, and all this stuff. And this game is just on my mind. Now, yes, do I want more from the game? Do I want the Ambassador class in there, Nebula class? Do I want more minor races? Do I want more events? By the way, those events, Nimble Giant, that you put in, where you get, I'm just going to put this out for you guys. There was an event in the game where my away team beamed down to a planet and all their technology stopped working. And it was just new technology work. Nothing turned on, and so we investigated, and we found out there was this scientist or doctor who did not like to have technology, and she believes technology was destroying human culture. And I was just watching an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and it was very familiar, everything that was in this event with this Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, where Captain Sisko was put in a box because Miles O'Brien was trying to discover the source of the and trying to contact the runabout in orbit, but trying to find the source of it, and the leader punished Captain Sisko. I love things like that, and it was just amazing. It was very nostalgic for me, so huge props, thank you. But yeah, if there were things that I want more, yes, I mentioned the ships. A couple other things that I want more is more minor races. I really like the Borg angle, like that they're going with. It's like there's a mysterious cube, and we have to investigate it, and Captain Jean-Luc Picard is taking up the investigation. We all know where that leads. But there's other cool stuff like a crystal type entity that goes from planet to planet, that removes all life from these planets. You could do an investigation on that, and it takes you through multiple events, and you can do what happened in the TNG episode, or you can kind of go different. So I love that, love that. So it's hard to put this game down. And when I try to compare it to Birth of the Federation, now, Birth of the Federation today to Birth of the Federation 1999 are very different, right? Today's Birth of the Federation, I only play mods because the mods add so much content to the game. So many things that, obviously the game couldn't go any further and add anything because it finished development in 1999. I have a feeling once we start adding a couple months to this game, add more mods to it, and there's already a bunch of mods, this game will not only supersede whatever the fan base community made in 20 years of developing Birth of the Federation, but I feel it's going to supersede that, and then supersede pretty much every other Star Trek game. I know when I want to play a Star Trek game, Infinite is usually the first thing in my mind, so yeah, I honestly just, it's great. I just think that for right now, and this happened with Birth of the Federation 1, right? When initially launched, you only had like Miranda class, you only had very basic ships to start out the game, and you get more as time goes on. In the fan mods, you can start building like the Ambassador class, the Excelsior class, all these ships from the beginning. So I feel like once the mods come out and gives you that accessibility, the way you want to play, I think this will become the greatest Star Trek game ever made at that point. And it will finish up the best Star Trek game of all time? Not yet. And exactly right here where it says, not yet. It's going to get there. And just like any game launch, there are, there's no... I can rarely remember a really good game launch that's like 99 or 100 out of the gate. I think the only one that I could think of is Red Dead Redemption, right, where it had 90s. Every other game that pretty much comes out always starts with there's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of bugs. If you look, I just saw a review for City Skylines 2. Bugs. I call it. There was some big bugs in Total War. I think it's called Egypt or Pharaoh Total War. There's bugs in there, and you can see it's affecting the reviews. And that's why I'm kind of waiting for my official review to come out in like a day or two, because I wanted to make sure when I put in a full review that I'm taking into fact that it's going to play different on one platform than the other, that the initial bugs are taken care of, to give it its due diligence. This much we're not too proud to admit, but together we will get there. Until next time, rock. So yeah, overall, guys, if you're looking for a great Star Trek strategy game, I will tell you this gives you a lot of nostalgia. I love the fact that you have like that Birth of the Federation, like where you're going through here, you're exploring, running into minor races. The couple of things I would like that are probably a little bit different would be, and I'm sure some fan modder is going to do this, where the Federation, Romulans, Cardassians are in different spots in the galaxy, right? And also open up the Gamma and Delta quadrants, but have, all the races being put different in different parts of the galaxy randomly. I also think that I would like, and this is probably where a mod is going to come in, is, so if you look at the galactic map of Star Trek, right, the Cardassian Union is closer to here, and the Romulan Empire is closer to around here. The Romulans and Klingons do touch, but the Cardassians and Romulans don't touch. So it's like little things like that that I would like to be altered. Again, a fan-made mod will fix that. But overall, I mean, like, I keep playing the game, which is great. And I really like all these surprises. Even on my next, on playing a brand new game, I am running into events that I didn't catch on my first thing, which is like the crystalline entity, and found out that I'm not going to spoil it. So you'll have to find out. But it's just really incredible. I just find these really amazing events, and they just keep me like, wow, that's cool. Wow, this is cool. Yeah, all I'm going to say is it's really cool. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Catch you next one. See you then.